Today is November the 8th, 2021. My name is Tanya Finchum. I'm with Oklahoma State University with the Oklahoma Oral History Research Program. With me is Gary Sparks, a 1966 graduate of Oklahoma State University and the lead architect for the renovations of Gallagher-Iba Arena and Boone Pickens Stadium, and amongst other things, but those are the main ones. And that took place between 1995 and 2009. Gary also wrote the book about these major projects entitled Game Changer of Oklahoma State University's Gallagher-Iba Arena and Boone Pickens Stadium. Gary was also selected to design memorials for the two OSU-related tragic events. He spoke about the 2015 homecoming parade crash in his 2019 oral history interview. And today's interview will focus on the memorial in Gallagher-Iba and its counterpart near Strasburg, Colorado. And this interview will be part of the project we're calling the Remember Promise. So thank you for coming today. By way of context, January 27th, 2001, a plane crashed carrying 10 men associated with the men's basketball program at OSU. Shortly thereafter, the university and the community made a promise to the families of those 10 men that they would never be forgotten. And to honor that promise, the university erected the memorials, and we'll talk about those a little bit later in this interview. But before we get there, let's learn a little bit about you. Start wherever you want.
Very good. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm a graduate of Oklahoma State University. I got through the School of Architecture by the skin of my teeth, and I just have great memories of this place. It was so good to me. It really became home. Oklahoma State University is my second home, and I love this place, and I can never do enough to pay back the opportunity I had to get my degree at this university, and eventually had a successful career thanks to OSU in architecture. So I'm married to a young lady that I met here on campus, and we had our first date was a blind date. And about 1963, we got married in 1966. And we've been married for ever how many years that is, 50-something years, I guess. We have 3 daughters and 12 grandchildren. So we stayed very busy in our retired years here, although I'm still working and not totally retired, but I've slowed down some. So OSU's been good to me, and I enjoyed coming back here. We go to all the basketball games, wrestling matches, football games, stay involved in the School of Architecture some, and I just enjoy. I've got a grandson here now, majoring in mechanical engineering, so we come back and visit with him occasionally as well. And had a great career in architecture. I was very fortunate. I had a firm of about 70 people in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and we did work across the United States. So I was very blessed to have a great career in architecture thanks to Oklahoma State. Spent a couple of years in the Army, and then we settled in Tulsa and made that our home. And so this morning I'm glad to be here, and I'm ready to visit a little bit about a period of OSU's history that is difficult for a lot of us to talk about, but it needs to be remembered. And I'm happy to share my experience through that event that we all went through.
Okay, well then let's move into January the 27th, 2001. Take us through that day for you, maybe the week before too, what was going on.
Yeah, well, I was in the middle of, we just finished the design for Gallagher-Iba Arena, and had opened it up, and it was a huge success as far as the public was concerned. Everybody loved the project. It was exciting. OSU Athletics had finally decided that we could have some great facilities, and we had a great leadership with the president, Dr. Halligan, and the Board of Regents. Terry Don Phillips was the athletic director when all that began. And so there was a great vision for enhancing our athletic facilities, and I was happy and honored to be a part of all that. We were just beginning to look at the redesign of our football stadium. At that time, it was called Lewis Field. Later became Boone Pickens Stadium. But they were actually going through the selection process, deciding who the architect would be for that project. I was on the 27th. I was in Kansas City visiting family, and that evening I got the news that one of the planes that was coming back from Colorado had not made it back to Stillwater. And there wasn't really much other news that I could get, being out of state and out of contact with all that was going on in Oklahoma. But I made some calls and talked to some people here in Stillwater to try to get an update on what's going on. It was later, much later, that found out that, yes, in fact, one of the planes had not made it back to Stillwater. As I remember it, they didn't say what the cause was until later. And then they said, I guess after they had informed the family members that the plane had crashed and there were no survivors. And I just remember thinking, that can't be, how can that happen? And it was devastating to all of the OSU family, myself included. So we came back to Stillwater the next day, and on the 31st of January, there was a memorial service at Gallagher-Iba Arena, and it was packed. I think there was over 13,000 people that showed up for that. It was very, very moving. Families had come to the memorial service, and we had all the coaches and players and a large contingency of coaches from around the country that came, and presidents of universities that came to support our family here at Stillwater. So that was an incredible memorial service. Dr. Halligan spoke, Dr. Birdwell, of course, Coach Sutton gave a very touching, moving talk, as well as Andre Williams, one of our basketball players. And he read a poem called "I'm Free." That's a very touching poem. So the memorial service really began the healing process, but everybody was still pretty emotional about what had been going on. And a lot of us knew a lot of the people that were on the plane, and we knew them personally. So it was a very tragic event. The following Monday night, we had a basketball game, and everybody was wondering, how's this team and the coaching staff going to respond this quickly after that tragic event, playing a basketball game against Missouri. And the crowd was there to support the team. It was really rowdy, really loud, and we won the game 69-66. And that was really another step towards the healing process, I think. During the interviews for the football stadium, after our interview with the president, Dr. Halligan was there, and some of the regents and other people involved in the university came to the interview. After our interview, Dr. Halligan asked me if I would be willing to,
I forgot to tell you that.
Willing to design the memorials for in Strasburg, Colorado, and the one at Gallagher-Iba Arena. And I said, absolutely, I'd be honored to do that, Dr. Halligan. And so that was the beginning of the design process when he asked me if I would do that. So We had some meetings here on campus with some of the key people like Dr. Bosman, Dr. Halligan, and some of the other people about just what should that design look like? What are their thoughts about that? And we came up with some initial designs. And when those were presented to the people in Strasbourg, because they needed to be involved in this process as well, their recommendation was that we not have anything that was very tall vertically. That they said people out here will use that as a target with their rifles and hunting. They're all hunters, and so they'll see this and so they recommended that we keep the design pretty low to the ground. And that was the reason that when you go to the site and you look at it, you'll see the design is basically low to the ground. It's near the crash site. It's about 1,000 feet actually from the actual crash. And the idea was that we would have a marker for each of the men, and on that marker would be a photo of them in granite, black granite. It'd be inscribed, their photograph, and then there would be words about that person that had been written by the family, can remember them. And then that was in a circle, and then we had an image of the spirit rider on this monument, and we also had the star. We had the distance from that point to Stillwater. It's 460 something miles from Strasbourg, the site of the crash, to Stillwater, and there was an arrow that pointed towards Stillwater. The plaza area was concrete, stamped concrete, and we had a bench at one end of the memorial, and just a simple plain bench where you could sit and reflect on the event, and 2 pine trees on either side of that bench. I can still see it as if I was there right now looking at it. The people of Strasbourg were incredibly helpful. They did everything they could to make sure we had everything we needed. We had a local contractor that built the memorial. John Houck and David Bosman and I made many trips to Strasbourg to oversee the design, oversee the construction, make sure it was going exactly the way it should, that there weren't any issues. If there were, we were able to address them immediately and get everything back on track. But we actually, John and I actually worked with the contractor because they were having issues getting labor. So we actually mixed concrete and helped them pour concrete and got our work clothes on and got out there and actually worked on the construction, which was kind of neat. But then there was a service after we completed it, and the regents came out to Strasbourg, president, so several officials from OSU, family members, and we dedicated that memorial shortly after it was finished. Then we turned our attention to designing the one in Gallagher-Iba Arena. Now, my daughter, Jill Selman, is an interior designer and a graduate of Oklahoma State and was working at our firm at that time. So she helped tremendously with the design of the one in Gallagher-Iba Arena. It was a big help, and it was different, but had some of the same similarities to the one in Strasbourg. We had vertical black granite panels with images of each of the 10 men on each panel and an inscription from the families. And we had a center panel that called that we will remember, and it tells a little bit about the incident. And then the university had Harold Holden, a sculpture artist, did a bronze cowboy that's kneeling, holding his hat in his hand. And very, very touching piece of art that reflects how everybody felt about what happened, the tragedy that took place. We had several local contractors that were very involved in building what we had designed, particularly the people that furnished all the stone and marble and granite that went into both projects. They did an incredible job. We went to their shop prior to construction, laid everything out, made sure everything fit before we shipped it to Colorado or we shipped it to Stillwater. And they were located just outside Tulsa. I don't remember exactly where the stone and granite came from, but it came from back east. They were great to work with, did a great job. And I was just honored to be a part of all that.
How were the pieces shipped that went to Strasburg? On the back of a truck or
Yes.
pickup truck or
No, they were shipped in small, it wasn't like one big 18-wheeler, but they came in smaller trucks, and they would just have a few pieces at a time. So once they got all the pieces there, then we could lay it out and begin putting it together. But we knew everything was going to fit because we'd already done that at their shop outside Tulsa. So when it arrived, everything was cut to fit, and we were able to put it all together.
Yeah, I looked up at the shape of it as a decacon.
Yes.
Decacon.
Yeah, it is. We just spent a lot of time. It's simple. It's really simple design, but there's a lot of thought that went into it. Everything had a purpose and a reason for everything we did. And so, yeah, it's out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's on a gravel road. It's hard, not easy to find. You kind of have to get directions. But there is a marker off the highway that tells you that where it's located, and then you just have to follow the signage to get to the site.
The reasoning behind putting the thing in the middle that had the mileage. Do you know what that thought process was?
Well, it was a little bit like we kind of wanted people to know that they were headed home, and they had this much further to go, and they were on their way, but they just didn't make it. They still had a long ways to go. It was over 470 miles, I think, before they could get to Stillwater. It just seemed like people that would come to that memorial might not know how far Stillwater is from Strasburg. So just kind of a reminder that they still had a long ways to go before they could get home.
And to use this spirit rider.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that's what's in,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
The spirit?
Yeah, the spirit rider is such a big part of OSU and what we're all about. So we wanted to make sure that we had the spirit rider in there.
And then there's stars around.
There's stars, and then we have Bullet. We also have an image of Bullet that's in the memorial, along with, obviously with Spirit Rider. So it captured both Bullet and the Spirit Rider.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wondered about that too.
Yeah.
And then how long did it take from once you started preparing the site to actually getting it finished?
It probably, I don't remember exactly, but it took all summer.
Okay.
It was probably 5 months, 4 or 5 months to build it. And it was a pretty involved project. And being out so remote and so far away from where all the materials had been made and put together and trucking them out there, shortage of labor, and it's a pretty big project. But there were probably at most, not counting John and I, they might have 3 to 5 people working on the project every day. And that wasn't, and they didn't work every day. There's some days where there wasn't much going on. Of course, concrete had to cure, and so it wasn't continuous, and there weren't that many people working on it, so it took a long time to build it.
So would someone there be your, touch base with you, say this is what's going on now, or do you have someone to contact
I had
on
some
that
local
end?
people there that we could stay in contact with, and the sheriff in that county, and there was a rancher that lived right across the gravel road, and there were other people in the community that we stayed in constant contact with them.
And you use a local surveyor?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And John did some of the survey work. Yeah. A lot of the people in Strasburg really became very interested in the project. It meant a lot to them. I was amazed at how much this project meant to some of the local people. I thought that was very interesting.
I've seen pictures too, and it's fenced.
Yeah.
Kind of.
We put a wrought iron fence around it to kind of just give it some privacy and some identity. It's not locked or anything. Anybody can go in at any time. But it is, the university does maintain it. I think they send people out there several times a year just to make sure it's clean and there's not been any damage. And it's in good shape. If there's any repair work that needs to be done, the university takes care of it.
When was the last time you were there?
It's probably been 4 or 5 years. We go to Colorado occasionally, and it's right on the highway, so you can be from the highway to the site in 15 minutes. So
And it's holding up pretty well?
It's holding up well, yeah.
Don't worry about erosion in the wind?
No. We made sure that all materials we used were low maintenance and had long lifespans. Granite, nothing's going to happen to the granite or concrete. We didn't use any materials. The bench is marble or granite, and so there aren't any materials that are going to deteriorate or could be easily damaged or destroyed.
Well, did you watch any of the process of the etching, like to do the images?
No, I didn't see any of that, but
I guess it's computerized these days.
Right,
I don't know about 20 years ago.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It was all.
Did you have to redo any of that?
No, it was all perfect. The people that did the craftsmanship, both in Strasburg and at Gallagher-Iba, was excellent. Those people knew how important this was to the university and the state, and they took pride in doing what they did. You could see as they were doing the work that they were taking pride in what they were doing. It meant a lot to them. They may have never been to Stillwater. A lot of them, I'm sure, didn't go to school here, but they knew this was special. And there was something special about this project because it meant so much to so many people. And it was really interesting. It was moving. I can still see them laying those granite pieces in Colorado. It's hot, dusty, windy, in the middle of nowhere, basically. But they really took a lot of time and effort to make sure that everything they did was done with the utmost craftsmanship. And they didn't get in a hurry, they weren't rushed, they were respectful. what they were doing. It was just a neat. It's not like a typical job site.
Mm-hmm.
It just wasn't. There was something different about this than any other job site you might go to.
Yeah. And it was so close to where the impact was.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's just football field away. I mean, it's just, you were, John and I walked that site where the plane had crashed, and it was right adjacent to the field that the plane went down in. And you could stand there and you just wondered. I often wondered about what those men, what did they know what was getting ready to happen? Did they have any warning, or what was going through their mind, or did they even know that they were getting ready to crash? I don't think they probably did.
It happened so quickly.
Yeah, I really don't I don't think they realized that they were going down. I don't know anything about flying an airplane, so I can't speculate, but I think something went awry, that the instruments weren't reading what they thought they were reading or something. So I don't think they knew that they were getting ready to crash.
And then now they have a marker out in the field.
I don't know if they put a marker out there or not.
I've seen a picture of one, and it's got a basketball on top of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but that wasn't anything that was that's too far off to be part of your design.
Well, it may have been done later.
It may have been.
It wasn't part of our project or anything we did.
So before you even, you came up with your designs, then you went out to take a look, or did you go take a look and then come back and do your designs?
Well, we had photos of the site.
Okay.
And we were pretty familiar with what the site was.
The terrain.
Yeah, it was just flat. It wasn't in the mountainous part of Colorado at all. So we knew what the terrain was like. And once we did the sketches, the second generation of the sketches, the first ones we did were rejected because they were vertical. And when they said you don't want to do that, that's a bad idea. That's not appropriate for this. So we said, okay, we understand. And went back and rethought what we should be doing, and that's how we came up with the final design. Then we went to the site and said, this works here. This is appropriate for this site, and we can do this project at this location. It works. It fits. It feels right. Everything about it, it's the right size. It's not too big. It's not too small. It's exactly the right fit for this.
Were the family members involved? Any of them involved in that? Okay, in that?
No, they're just the words that were on the plaques. It had a limited number of
space
that they could put their thoughts on, and but we did have them approve. Well, we did have them approve all of the images of each plaque and the wording and the look of that. So they did have an opportunity. And they may, I don't know if the university showed them our concepts or not. They may have of what we were doing in both locations. I met with a few of the families, but I didn't meet with all the families. I did meet with a few, especially the ones that were local. Mm-hmm. And it was the most difficult project I've ever done, and maybe the most important in a lot of respects. Even though we were working on big projects at the time, especially Gallagher-Iba and Big Stadium, in the middle of some massive decisions that had to be made, and trying to get Boone Pickens Stadium in budget at that time before Boone came along and made these big donations that we didn't have a lot of money. So we're trying to figure out how we could phase the stadium and start with phase one, then phase two, phase three, and make phase one fit a limited budget and all that. But even in the midst of all that, this project, these two projects, the two memorials were going on at the same time and really took priority for me. They were as important or more important than trying to figure out how to get the stadium up and going.
So how many on the team would have been involved with the memorials, roughly?
If you include our staff and the contractors and everybody, I'd say, not counting the university, just John Howard, David Bosco, and me, maybe 15, 20 people that touched it in one way or another. So it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good staff. I mean, we had to have a structural engineer. We had to have civil. We had to have our design team, and then the contractors had several people involved during constructing and putting the pieces together. So I'd say it could have easily been 20 people that were involved in it.
Well, in Gallagher, when you first were renovating it, what was going to be in that spot?
It was just a lobby.
Just a lobby.
Yeah, we didn't really have anything. But when it came time to think about where would be a good location for the memorial, it needed to either be in the north lobby or south lobby. And we just thought having it near the academic center, and it's right there at the entrance to Heritage Hall. And really that's where the visiting team, whenever we have football, basketball, wrestling, whatever, most of the visiting teams come in there because the visiting locker room is right behind that. Okay. So it was an opportunity to get people who maybe don't know about that or don't know much about it to stop and reflect and think about that a little bit.
I'm thinking there'd be a lot of extra weight on that spot. You'd have to take that into account.
Yeah, but it's designed to hold a lot of weight. So, yeah, that was not a big issue. We didn't have to worry about that too much.
Well, when it was time to install it, was there any issues with getting things to fit in and such?
Yeah, it was because some of those pieces are pretty big. And it's not easy access from the street up the steps into the lobby, and carting that on carts across the lobby onto we would put down plywood and make sure we protected the floor. And there was a lot of thought that went into all that. And those pieces aren't heavy. That granite is really heavy. So when you put that much granite, it did add a lot of weight, but that floor slab is designed to handle that. So.
Well, when you were doing your design, did you know what the sculptor was?
Yeah, we worked closely with Harold.
You knew what that was going to look like.
He
before.
did some sketches, and we looked at them, and we approved everything. But he hit it. He just hit it perfectly. I thought, there was never, this. You need to go back and redo this, because his initial sketch, he autographed a sketch that he did and gave it to me. And I've got it on the wall at home. But it was like, that's it. You hit it. You nailed it. The very first sketch was perfect. And I think everybody felt the same way. It was just really touching. I mean, that kneeling cowboy holding his hat in his hand, facing the arena.
Yeah, I went and paid extra close attention the last time I was in there. Part of his straps on his boot has OSU
Yeah.
on it.
I mean, he's right.
Yeah,
But everybody really just put a lot of thought into the detail of all the pieces of design. I mean, it's simple compared to a football stadium or what we did at Gallagher-Iba, but at the same time, it needs as much thought and attention to all the details that a 60,000 seat stadium or 13,611 seat arena needs. It doesn't matter if it's a big project or a little project. As a designer and architect, our job is to think about all the little details and get it right. And I think a lot of times, we can't put something down. We think about it. It kind of consumes you. So you go home at night and you think about it. You're thinking about, what if we did this? What if we moved? What if we turned that this direction? Or what if we added this or took this away and replaced it with that? So you're thinking about this stuff all the time. And you sit down in the middle of the night. I mean, I was sketching stuff for a project I'm working on this morning before I came over here. I got to thinking, this would be better if we moved the building over here and put something else here. It's going to make that up. And I was thinking about that last night. I woke up thinking about it. So that's just how our mind works. We're always wanting to improve and make something better. No matter what it is, that's just part of the design process. How can we make this better?
Well, looking back on it, would you change anything with either one of them?
Not really. I'm not really. I feel like we did, under the circumstances, with all the things that, because you have a lot of constraints sometimes that people don't realize. Sometimes it's money, it's time, it's location, it's whatever. So it's not like you have a blank canvas totally, because you do have a lot of built-in constraints that you have to deal with pretty much on any project. So when I go back and think about some things, the only thing that in Gallagher-Iba that we could have done differently, it's such a high ceiling, but the lighting maybe could have been tweaked a little bit or something. And maybe some lighting in certain areas, but again, you got this high ceiling and you got the windows above, and so there's always some limitations on what you can do, or that make it more difficult than what some people might think it is.
Well, did you have a timeline that you had to meet? A specific?
Yeah, they did. It wasn't just an absolute time, like it's got to be done in June 30th or whatever, but it was like, we need this done. I don't remember the exact, but they wanted it done at a certain general time frame, like August or September or whatever that was when they had the dedication in, because they've got to get all the regions together. They've got schedules to put together. There was, 30, 40 people maybe that were at Strasbourg for the dedication. And so scheduling a time where you can get that many people to go that far for a dedication, and families. So they said, here's the window, we're looking at to make this happen. And the university's planning several months out. So for the arena, I don't remember if there was like an anniversary the next year. They wanted to have it ready for that.
Yeah, I think I read that it was dedicated like in February.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's right.
Or like the, I don't know, mid February maybe.
Yeah, I can't.
23rd, February 23rd sounds right, doesn't it?
I'm sure there was a specific
because of
reason
scheduling.
that the university wanted it on that date, and they gave us notice of when they wanted to have that dedication. So we worked to make sure we could be finished at that time. And so you back up from whatever date. Usually, two things that you have to have as an architect is what's your budget and what's the schedule, you know. And you have to lock into both of those because sometimes schedule affects budget. If the schedule is accelerated to the point that people got to work double time, triple time to make it happen, that's going to affect the budget. But it's got to be realistic. Both of them need to be realistic. So there weren't any real issues meeting the budget or the schedule for either of those projects.
I think the dedication in Colorado was like August 25th, something like that.
Yeah,
And you were there.
I was there for that.
What all do you recall from that day? Reactions from the family and from the people that were there, that type of thing?
You know, at those kind of events, I'm more interested in is everything coming off right?
Okay.
Have we met everybody's expectations? Have we made all the arrangements? Are there seats for everybody? I'm behind the scene working with the university, John Houck and David Boschman, to make sure we have all the accommodations that everybody needs. Now, I'm less involved. Sometimes I'm involved in the actual dedication or something, but I'm not one that's looking for the microphone or wants the spotlight. I just soon be in the background. It's not about me. It's about did we do the job that we needed to for the university and for the family. I remember it being everybody was really touched by what they saw, and it was meaningful. And the family appreciated what the university had done, that they had gone to this much trouble to do this for them and to remember their loved ones. I think it meant a lot to all the families that we did what we did as a university. University really, I don't know what they could have done any better as far as reaching out to families and just making sure they did everything they could possibly do to support them and what they were going through. I was involved enough to know that they wanted to make sure they had everything covered and everything that they needed to support the families. And I thought the university did an incredible job supporting the families as much as you can possibly do in that situation. I mean, you can never bring back the lives that were lost, but trying to help them go through that loss.
That may have been the first time that they were all, no, that would have been the second time, I guess, they were all together. The first time would have been memorial service for that. Do you remember if they went by caravan or police escort or?
I remember there being a lot of cars at the site. So they didn't have like a big bus or anything that they came in. They came in individual cars and vans and nice things or whatever. But there were people from Strasburg that were at the dedication in Colorado, and some of the local people that showed up. So
was it in the morning or in the afternoon?
It was in the afternoon. It's kind of a cold, dreary day, as I remember. People were wearing coats. It was kind of chilly. It wasn't a bright, sunny day, as I remember.
Kind of hit the mood.
Yeah. So it's kind of a somber. It was quiet, somber, respectful. dedication.
And how did that differ from the one in Gallagher?
Well, the one in Gallagher, I don't remember the much about that dedication in Gallagher. I'm sure we had one, but I'm just blank on what that was like. I imagine it was probably at a basketball game. And that's such a small, confined space. It couldn't have been a very major event.
Maybe just family and the people in the ministry.
Yeah, because it's just not that big an area. I vaguely remember it, but it wasn't like Colorado where there were lots of people. It was different.
Did they actually unveil the cowboy or anything like that?
No, they kept it covered until the event, yeah. Okay. And then they uncovered it. They kind of kept it all.
The whole thing?
Oh, yeah, until they were ready to reveal for the dedication. And I don't know that the public had seen it before they unveiled it for the dedication. I don't think it had been.
There may have been some away games in between there.
Yeah.
Well, how long would it have taken to actually install that one? You got all your parts.
Oh, it took several weeks. There was a lot. That was pretty involved. Putting all the panels up, the flooring. It was a pretty involved process. It took several weeks to do that. And again, it was just done perfectly. There were no issues. There wasn't any. What was amazing about it, as I think back on it, in almost any project you do, I don't care if it's remodeling your kitchen, it seems like there's something that goes awry and somebody's blaming somebody for this material didn't get here when it was supposed to, or it didn't, what we ordered and what we got, and it doesn't fit. And so there's typically issues between the contractors, subcontractors, and frustrations and whatever. We didn't have any of that. It was no one, I don't think ever raised their voice. There was just so much respect for what we were doing and why. I don't remember any disagreements, any arguments, anything. It was.
Well, had that design been approved by? Were families involved in that in that one more than they were the one in Colorado? Or
not really. We showed both concepts to everybody that needed to approve it, had a chance to look at it and comment. I don't remember any, which is unusual when you think about it, but when we presented the final design for the one in Colorado, everybody blessed it. They liked it. They thought it was appropriate. And then the same thing in Gallagher-Iba, we presented that, and which is kind of unusual, but we didn't have to go back and redo anything, including the sculpture that Harold did. I can't think of anything that anybody changed. They all thought it was appropriate. It told the story. It sent the right message. It was appropriate and thought out well. So, which is kind of unusual when you think about it. Normally, somebody's wanting to change something or tweak or.
Well, for to do that design, had you looked at other type of memorials out there, or to get some idea, or you just knew off the this is what it's going to be?
No, you almost always, I like to go to the internet and see, what some other people have done. But typically, in this case, there really wasn't anything like what we were trying to do. So it wasn't very helpful. We we had a confined space. We knew where we wanted to put this, so we needed to design something that fit that space. And I wasn't going to find anything on the internet that would work. We knew we knew that we wanted to honor the 10 men. We knew we wanted a panel that said this is what it's about. We knew we wanted a bench where you could sit and reflect and just think about it and look at the sculpture and make that connection to the arena floor where these men lived and worked and played basketball and whatever. That this was a special place, special people, and they lost their lives way too early, and they're going to be remembered forever. So, just a quiet place that you can come and think, life is short. Life is way too short. I tell my grandkids, if you play golf, it's like you get one round of golf. You get one round in life. And there's 18 holes, so you need to enjoy every one of them. Just enjoy every hole that you play. In life, just enjoy every day. Make the most out of every day. I always say, every day is a good day. Some are just better than others. And that when you go to either site and you think about life and how short it is and you have no control over it. I had 6 bypass heart surgery since we met the last time.
Okay.
So, I'm blessed to be here. It's a God thing that I'm still alive. So I don't take any day for granted. I just want to make the most out of every day. And going to those memorials can help somebody stop and think how blessed they are. No matter what they're going through, you're blessed to still be alive and have a chance to move forward and make some good decisions and still have a good life. And those men aren't going to have that chance. You got an opportunity they'll never have. So be thankful for that and don't ever take it for granted. So I think that's part of what I was trying to incorporate into these designs is these men went way too early. And we're still alive, so let's make the most of it. And I think Coach Sutton did a good job of saying that in his talk that he gave at the memorial. I think I remember him saying, if there's anybody out there that you love, don't go to bed at night without letting them know that you love them. Garth Brooks is really big on that too. I mean, he's a OOHRP cowboy. He's really big on making sure that let people know you love them. You never know when you may not have that chance again. So
That's true.
be sure to tell them you love them.
Well, whose decision was it to name it We Will Remember, that memorial, to name it actually We Will Remember?
That'd be a good question for Larry Reese.
Okay.
He might be the one that.
It's very good. He couldn't have named it any better, but I was just curious who thought.
And then the other thing we did is we put that banner in the arena. We will remember that hangs from the roof structure.
Okay.
I think that was some Terry Don wanted to have that. So Jill, my daughter, who got all those banners made and hung in the arena, made sure that we had one that said we will remember and has the man's name on it. And that's a nice touch.
Very nice.
To have that in the actual arena.
I think when you were tasked with redesigning, it was raising the roof. Wasn't that the name of the campaign?
I don't know who came up with that.
Yeah.
That's another Larry Reese question, maybe.
Raising the roof, and the goal was to keep it rowdy as it had been.
Yeah.
And I was in the stands when they played that Missouri game, and it was
rowdy.
It was rowdy,
yeah.
But not quite as rowdy as when we beat OU shortly thereafter here.
Yeah.
And so, mission accomplished from your standpoint.
Yeah, it's pretty loud. It's pretty loud. As a matter of fact, we had to tone it down a little bit. We put some deadening material up in the upper part of the structure just to tone it down a little bit. But we did readings before we started the project, and we did readings after the project to see the noise level, and we're right there where it was before. But yeah, well, they said it's got to be loud, and we got to keep that floor. That's the original floor that they're playing basketball on. We don't want to lose that. We can't miss any games. Got to be able to play our games in there while all this construction's going on.
Did Coach Sutton or Coach Budke give you any, we want this, we would like this?
Well, Coach Sutton, we really embraced, both of the coaches embraced. I don't think Coach Budke was our coach when we were, might have been Hartman or something.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember exactly, but I know we met with all of them, and Coach Sutton, he embraced the idea of expanding the arena. He thought it was a great idea. There were discussions about how much we would expand it, and it went from 10.5, we were at 6,300, I think. And I won't mention the individuals, but one individual wanted it 10.5, another one wanted about 13.5, and then one wanted it 18,000. So we looked at all three options, and it was hard to justify just spending that much effort to just go to 10.5. But 18 was almost crazy to try to get to that number. So we settled on the 13.5 range. As it worked out, we got 13,611. But no, Coach Sutton mainly, he said it's got to be loud, and we got to keep the floor, and we got to be able to play all our games here because we can't go anywhere else. And Terry Don said, basically saying, he said it needs to be at least 13, 12, 14,000, somewhere in that range. We got to play all our games here, and let's keep that historic atmosphere. Don't lose that original Gallagher Hall feel.
Requests for the locker room specific ways?
Yeah, well, we were, everything was so bad. Our facilities were
Anything would have been better.
bad that almost anything we did would be an improvement. So we made significant improvements for wrestling, men and women's basketball, administrative offices all got improved. But then we came back later in about 2007 or so and redid the men and women's locker rooms, basketball locker rooms, because they were outdated, and now wrestling is getting a little bit of a renovation, because even though they're better than they were in 95, they're falling behind. In 20 years, you have to keep up. It's like an arms race with all the other universities out there. So if you don't do anything for 10, 12, 15 years, you get behind. in athletics, probably academics too, but especially in athletics. So you got to continue to, and that's what happened to Oklahoma State from 1900 to 1995. You know, we did very, very, very little for athletics. And that's why in 1995 our facilities were the worst in the conference, because we hadn't done anything really significant compared to other universities, a lot of other universities. So we had a lot of catching up to do. And it's taken from 1995 to 2021 to catch up. But now we're I think have one of the best overall athletic facilities in the conference and in some ways in the country.
Things new. I don't know what's left to do. We've got new soccer and we've got new baseball.
Yeah, there's a few things that I think Chad wants to do. I'll let him speak to that.
And softball and stuff.
You never quit moving forward, because that's what we did. We should have learned our lessons from the 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s. We've got to keep investing, reinvesting. We just have to. And we didn't do that. We did a horrible job of that. Because you can't, in athletics, if you don't have great facilities, you can't get good coaches because they know they can't recruit. So you fix your facilities, you get good coaches, you get good players, you have winning teams. And that's what it's all about.
It's all woven together.
Yeah, but it really starts with facilities. Because that's, I think, whether it's your home or physics lab or chemistry lab or whatever you're looking at, if you walk in and it's a dump, it tells you a lot about, well, how serious are they about this program? I mean, am I going to come here to study physics when they're operating out of a closet? Probably not. You're not going to get the best professors. You're not going to get the best students. So facilities matter.
They do. And the master plan, you helped design the master plan for all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And the entrance to Gallagher-Iba is about the only thing on there that major thing that's on there that they haven't gotten done yet.
Yeah, but
it's coming.
It's coming. We hope. I feel
it'll
like,
be very pretty the way I've seen it drawn out for that space.
Well, I always envisioned
from
the main entry off from the east and the main entry from the west to this complex. And we got the one from the west. We just need the one from the east. But the athletic village, we had this once in a lifetime opportunity to bring a lot of our facilities together. And I know at the time they were trying to determine how much land would they acquire. And I encouraged them. I said that initially they were not going to go past that street. It's not McElroy, is it? What's that street?
McElroy's the first. There's Hall of Fame and then McElroy's.
Okay, McElroy. So it is McElroy, yeah. They were going to stop just south of McElroy. I said, no, I think you need to go all the way to as far north as you can go, all the way to the elementary school, acquire all that, because you're going to need it. And they did, and that's good. Because they've used some of that north of McElroy already.
And it looks better than it did.
If they hadn't gotten that, they would have been landlocked.
So they listened to Mr. Sparks.
I just give my opinions. Sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't.
Sometimes they don't.
But
well, which one of the two projects, but Gallagher or the stadium, which one did you like doing better?
Oh gosh, that's hard to say. I think my wife and I, our first date was at Gallagher Hall.
It's a special place.
Gallagher Hall will always be special to us because that's where we met. And our first 2 or 3 dates were for basketball and wrestling. So, and she's a huge basketball fan. She loves basketball and wrestling. And it was a one-of-a-kind project. You just don't do that type of project. You know, who would think about building over an arena and doubling the capacity and continuing to play basketball? Just that whole concept was such a crazy idea. And we pulled it off. It's pretty nice. It's pretty special.
I think when I was there too, January 7th was the reopening, grand reopening. And I remember they turned the lights off to do announcements, and they wouldn't come back on.
Yeah, I remember that. And the other thing that happened is the escalator quit working.
Oh, okay.
But we got that fixed, and we got the lights fixed. I don't know what I don't know what happened. I think it's I don't know. I think on the lighting, it takes a certain amount of time for them to warm up.
Yeah. That's what the rumor afterwards we heard that.
But I don't know if that's really what it was or not. I never did find out. I was just glad they came back on. I didn't care what. Just get them back on.
I know a lot of fans are thankful for the escalators.
Yeah. Escalators were kind of a bold move. It's like, escalators? What do we need escalators for? And I said, we got to have escalators. I mean, you're talking about moving a lot of people.
Yeah, we can't do it with an
The
elevator.
elevators aren't going to cut it. Not everybody's going to be able to take the stairs. So we need the escalator.
Yeah.
And it was expensive. It was a lot of money. But I'm glad we got them in there because they're great people movers. Yeah, that arena is pretty special. But the stadium, you know, the neat thing about it, it was so bad. It was just horrible. The arena wasn't horrible. It was outdated. It was too small. But it wasn't deteriorated to the degree that the stadium was. The stadium was just a piece of junk. I mean, it was a piece of junk. The restrooms, those old urinals and toilet facilities, and they were too small and outdated, and ventilation and everything. It was just horrible, embarrassing. So to have a chance to turn that into something special and go from rags to riches, facility-wise, will always be pretty special. I remember sitting out in that stadium when I was in school here in the 60s, and I would just think back then as a student, not knowing anything about anything, I'm thinking, this is a dumpy stadium. This is pretty bad. And in 1995, it hadn't gotten that much better.
No.
So we did expand and renovate the press box, and they had lowered the field. So they made a few improvements, but all the improvements combined wouldn't have been over $5 million. If they had invested $5 million in those 30-something years, I'd be surprised. So it was like a drop in the bucket. So when it came time to say, hey, we're going to upgrade the stadium, and then the numbers on phase one, you know, the budget was like, can we do this for $15 million? And I would tell Terry Don, you can't do anything for $15 million. It's not going to work. And he'd say, well, how much is it going to take? And we'd crunch numbers and say, we need $30 million. We're going to have at least $30 million. If you want club seats and you really want to fix this, it's $30 million project. And it's, I don't think we can get $30 million. But they did, and we were able to do it right. And then we went to the north side, repeated that. And then we had this gaping hole in the west that said, what are we going to do down there? We're out of money. And it looks like it's just half finished. And Boone came along. He actually came along at the tail end of phase 2 and put money into the program. But then he really stepped up on the west end zone. And at that time, we were trying to fit all the football operation stuff down around Gallagher-Iba. Maybe take over that north parking lot and build a building there. None of it wouldn't fit. I went out to Boone's Ranch for a retreat and an update on our planning. And I was really dreading it because the update was, hey, it's not working. We cannot fit all of the football stuff down by Gallagher-Iba. And so we were having dinner that evening, and Scott Verplank was there having dinner with us, ex-golfer here at OSU. And as I was making my presentation, I was showing them that what we had been trying to do wasn't going to work. And Scott hadn't said anything hardly all evening, and he said, well, why don't you put that down into West End? And I thought, wow, that's a great idea. I hadn't thought about that. And the reason we hadn't thought about that, the culture here at OSU forever has been you keep all the sports together. You don't move programs away because we're family. You don't want football way over here and basketball way over there and tennis. You want to be together. So moving football to the West End zone had me. I was thinking, we can't do that. That's culturally that's not allowed. But once he said it, and it was obviously the only way to fit all the football stuff in, it became obvious that was the right thing to do. So then we moved all the football stuff to the West End side. Boone wrote the big check and said, I just want it to be the best. So off we went.
It's looking nice these
The rest
days.
is history.
And dealing with a lot of that bits and pieces while you were doing the memorials. I don't know when you slept.
Well, I didn't sleep a lot. It was, and we didn't have all the technology that we have today. Like even cell phones and stuff were just coming along, and you had bad phones, and the reception was horrible. And you'd be driving down the highway talking to somebody, and lose connection. Computer, emails and text messaging, all that kind of stuff in the 90s was early 2000, 20 years ago was not where it is today. So communicating is not as easy as it is today. But I don't know, it was my life. It consumed me for 20 years. 15, 20 years. Plus, that wasn't the only project. I had 70 people. We had projects from Florida. We were doing stuff all over the country. So, yeah.
Busy cowboy.
Yeah. But it was fun.
And you managed to come back for games.
Absolutely. Well, sometimes I'd make 2 trips to Tulsa. I'd be down here in the morning for an 8:30, 9 o'clock meeting or 8 o'clock meeting with coaches or something. I came whenever they could meet. I was at their mercy. And so I'd have an 8:30 meeting here, and then I'd have a 2:30 meeting in Tulsa. I'd have to get back for that. Then there'd be a basketball game that night, or football or whatever it was. So I'd pick my wife up and we'd come back that evening for a game. So yeah, that happened numerous times.
How many of your children have degrees from OSU?
I've got one.
And then how many of the grandkids are going to be?
Yeah, I've got one
Just
here
one?
now, and hopefully there's a bunch more coming. We'll see.
We'll see.
You have no control over where kids go to school. they've got so many other, I mean, it's not like it used to be where you just went where your parents went. I don't think those days are, I tried to make them all good cowboys and cowgirls, but don't have any control over that. But I do have one here and several more that I think that'll be coming this way.
Well, if they're interested in sports, at least Grandpa
Yeah.
provided good, or helped provide good.
Yeah. Well, actually, what's kind of interesting now is I did the Wesley Foundation. It's on the corner over there in Hall of Fame, Washington, and my grandson lives in that building. That's the third floor is the housing unit, so he lives up there. I used to live in the old building that we tore down in the basement when I was here.
Well, that's a good legacy connection.
So he's upstairs in a luxury apartment.
But I'm assuming he knows the story about the 10.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's been out to the memorial.
A lot of this current generation freshman class weren't born when this happened.
Oh.
So it's important that we
that's a good point.
let them know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know at each anniversary they'll do a moment of silence at the basketball games. And I think the library bells still do the 10 times.
Yeah. You know, I think it's important to pause and remember, even though they don't have a personal relationship with any of those 10 people, that I still think it's important to pay respect to them and what they meant to the university. And again, like I said, be thankful you're alive and take advantage of the day. Enjoy it. Make the most of it. Do something positive. Say something positive to somebody. Whatever.
Did you personally know any of the 10?
I knew Tegan's. And
from his time in Tulsa.
And I had met most of all the players, but I didn't know them that much. I mean, when I was working in all those projects, I would run into these people, but I didn't interfere. I knew they were busy. They had their schedules, and I wasn't one of these people that just tried to spend a lot of time with people because I knew they had other more important things to do. But Bill Teagans and I would talk occasionally. And, that was good.
Do you remember anything specifically about him that you want to say on the record?
He was very complimentary. There were times when we would be on the job site during Gallagher-Iba, and he'd get a hard hat and he'd be standing up there and looking at the project and just saying, this is going to be really, really big time. I would say, yeah, it's going to be pretty big time. And he was proud that the university was expanding and doing that project. He was able to see it come about. I think that meant a lot to him.
You remember any of the phrases that he used when he was doing play-by-play? I want to think, give him 6. Was that one of his, or
something about the 3?
Oh yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, gosh, I can't remember like I used to. But there was one that he used on the air a lot about.
I should know that too, but it's gone.
Yeah.
I think it's even the title of the book that his wife wrote, but I can't think of.
Well, what's the title of the book?
If I could remember that, would be good.
That's the phrase.
Yes.
I got the book.
It's something about it's up.
Golly.
It's in.
I'll have to look that up.
It will bug both of us until we figure that out, won't it?
Yeah.
So, in your opinion, the OSU's done how well on keeping the promise to never forget?
I think they've done an outstanding job, and a lot of that is Larry Reese probably doesn't get the credit he deserves because it means a lot to him. I hope that we don't. I mean, Larry Reese is a really key player in athletics.
Mm-hmm.
He's a bigger player for keeping us family than most people realize. Without him, I mean, he's the one person that's been through all this that's still there. I mean, all the coaching changes, everything, all the tragic things that have happened by our athletic program, and the positive things. I mean, he's been there to celebrate. He's been there to mourn and be frustrated and angry. He's handled all those emotions. But it's like a revolving door. You know, think about all the coaches we've had, all the players, all the assistants, all the staff. And Larry's the one guy, one of the most visible. I mean, there's others that have been there as well, but they're not visible. They're in the background. But Larry, he's been there from 93, 4, 5, whatever it is, through all that stuff. And he's been the glue that's kept this together, in my opinion, because we've had athletic directors come and go, presidents come and go, VPs, regions, coaches, players, staff. Larry is the guy. I don't think he gets near enough credit.
And he's got a great voice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But he's been a cheerleader.
And he does cowgirls and cowboys basketball, doesn't he?
I think so.
Yeah, I think he does.
Football.
Well, he's on my list. We're going to not
Well,
stop till we
he
get
needs
till we
to
get
be.
him.
He needs to be, because there isn't anybody that's lived it more than Larry has. Larry has lived this more than any single person alive.
Well, and then from what I understand with the plane crash, Dr. Bosselman had a major part in a lot of, at least the immediate response to all of that.
Oh, Dr. Bosselman was, I mean, he was key for the Colorado thing. I mean, he took that on personally and he lived it. Yeah. He did. He was amazing what he did. And he had an assistant, a lady that worked with him. I don't remember her name.
Nancy.
Yeah. She was she might be, if you can't get David to talk, she might. Because she was right there, just like this.
When you all traveled out together, did you fly out or drive?
Drove. Usually John and I drove, and then he and Nancy, because we had different schedules and different reasons for going, so we couldn't all ride together. But once we got there, we'd spend some time together.
I'm not familiar with the John that you're talking about.
John Houck?
Yeah.
Yeah. But, if you can't get David and Nancy, that'd be somebody to talk to.
I was thinking if he was in the car with you, you probably heard some interesting stories traveling back and forth.
But the only person that has lived it all
Larry.
is Larry Reese. Great guy.
Get ready to rumble.
What's that?
Get ready to rumble.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Get ready to rumble.
Yeah. He's good. He's a good man. He's good at what he does, but he knows the history. He's been in the trenches. He's been in the meetings.
And he's a cancer survivor.
Yeah, exactly.
So we got that piece too.
Yeah, I don't know of anyone else there isn't anyone else. There's not anyone else. You really need to do his history. I mean, he knows. If you want a 20-year capsule of OSU athletics, he's the guy.
Take more than one sit down one
Yeah.
to do it too.
Yeah. I mean, he is the only person alive that had personal meetings with Boone and all the presidents and all the athletic. He sits in all those meetings, high-level meetings, discussions about everything from ticket prices to you name it. He's at all that stuff. Yeah.
Well, and he had to have known at least the majority of the people on the plane, if
Oh, I'm sure he knew.
maybe 9 of the 10 at least.
Yeah. He may have not known the pilot or something, but he probably knew them. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't know all of them.
Hard.
Dorado, remember him?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I haven't seen him in a long time.
I don't know. I haven't seen his name in the paper either, so I'm
No,
guessing he's still.
His story was he was supposed to be on that plane, the crash, and then they just switched right at the last minute.
Well, OSU's had enough sadness, haven't they, between that and then 2015 and then 2011?
Yeah, we've had a lot to overcome. We've had more than our share to overcome.
That we stood strong, loyal, and true.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah. Still standing tall. Hard to keep a good cowgirl down.
Well, usually have people supporting them all the way around to help them stand up, didn't it?
Yeah.
Didn't it? Well, that's what I've come to realize here too. Well, I've covered most of my questions here. Is there anything that I haven't thought to ask that we need to talk about?
No, I just think
In your body of work, these two rank right up there at the top.
oh yeah. I mean, all the OSU work is really, really, really special. I mean, it's just you don't expect to be able to be involved in the projects I've been involved in. This is really special to be a part of the Gallagher-Iba Arena, and then these two memorials. They're just special.
Well, I think OSU was lucky that you decided to stay in Oklahoma and come on over.
Well, it's been a win-win.
It has. Okay.
No, and I'm thankful that you're capturing this history. I think it's great that the university's doing this.
Yeah.
I'm not probably your best speaker or best whatever.
No, you've been great.
But I think the fact that the university's doing this, and obviously it means a lot to you. You're taking it very personal. You care about it. I mean, that's huge. I don't know how. This is important to have this documented.
It is. I mean, we were in the stadium we were in the arena for the memorial, and my husband had a couple of the players in his classes, and my son's was into basketball, so yeah, it's kind of interwoven with our family history too.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can't think of. I'm just proud to be a Cowboy. I mean, if you think about what this university has produced in the way of academics and athletics, it's amazing. And our culture stems from being a land-grant college, a land-grant university. I think there's a lot to that culture that other universities don't have. I don't care if it's K-State or Iowa State. It's just something different about a land-grant university. And I think we exemplify that, the whole, whatever that DNA is that comes with the land grant university, we still have that and we embrace that. As long as we do, I think we'll continue to do great things.
Thanks. I've heard it referred to as cowboy genes, spelled with a G-E-N-E-S.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
and we care and help support each other when we need to, through trying times and happy times.
Yeah. But somehow we have to continue to download all this to the people that are coming up. Because I think today's young people are so overwhelmed with information and technology that trying to squeeze this into their life is not easy. They're going so fast and they get such snippets of information. This is not snippets. I mean, what you're dealing with are stories. We're not storytellers anymore. We're losing the ability to tell stories. Like I remember my aunts and uncles sitting around telling stories. They were great at it. I mean, I would just sit on the edge of my seat listening to my aunts and uncles tell stories. Kids today are, it's all about texting.
All about saying what you need to say in 100, however many characters.
Yeah.
Or tweet. Yeah, I understand you. Yeah.
So I think there's a few that get it, and I've got of my 12 grandkids, I'd say I've got 3 or 4 maybe that would slow down long enough and ask questions and be. The rest of them are going so fast.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow we have to learn how to communicate with them and get these stories so they know the history. History is important.
History definitely is.
So I'm glad I can share my little bit of information with you and whoever listens to this or reads it.
Well, we hope, 50 years or 100 years from now, someone will be curious enough to come and look and listen to. The memorial will still be standing at that point, I would imagine. We may raise the roof again, but...
There will be people that will want to know, what was that all about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too.
Well, we got to get that curiosity level up.
Well, remember the 10 run keeps it front and center some,
good.
and then the anniversaries do too, but work on it's the character that these men had too that we hope to continue to instill in the generations to come.
Yeah.
It's not just a game, but it is just a game. Let's get into that dilemma too. But all right, well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure again to spend a morning with you.
It's my pleasure and my honor to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this.
And go Pokes.
Go Pokes. Always.
Hopefully the rowdy will come back really soon, even louder.
I think I was at the exhibition game the other night. It was pretty rowdy.
It was.
For an exhibition game, I thought it was well attended. But I think the fans are going to support this team. They're fun to watch. They're good.
I'm hoping tomorrow we'll have a little bit more in the stands.
Yeah.
But it was loud and the students were there and the coach is doing everything he can.
Yeah. Oh, he's great. He's absolutely fantastic.
And he understands, from what I understand, he understands the importance of remembering these 10 too.
I agree. I think it is too.
Yeah.
It's a class act.
Yeah.
Seems to be a real class. I don't know him that well, but I know him a little bit.
Well, you're a class act too, so thank you.
Thank you.